Mickey Rourke was a unique type of person. Rebels, hard-drinking, hard-living stars who played with danger have already been in Hollywood. But Rourke wasn't like the other people. His eyes were scary in a way that was hard to control. His roles, in Diner, Rumble Fish, and 912 Weeks, were rough, unpredictable, and electric. In the 1980s, he shot across the screen like a comet. Studio reports say that he might have become the next Brando. After that, he quickly vanished. Mickey Rourke didn't want to become popular. He was running away from it. The parties, plots, and never-ending games of a business based on illusion all turned to ash in his mouth. What he needed was something real. He couldn't be fooled by anything. Something that would hurt him back. That is when he found it. The blood, the gloves, and the ring. There wasn't a comeback after that. There was no making up for it. There was something bad going on. Something that can't be taken back. Hollywood found out that he wasn't there anymore, but it was too late. Joe Rogan says that his story is bad. Let's find out why it's happening. The rise of Mickey Rourke, the most dangerous star in Hollywood. In 1982, LA had not seen a Mickey Rourke in many years. He was a force of nature when he first appeared on screen in Diner. He wasn't just another character making their movie debut. When reviewers thought of names like Dean and Brando, they rushed to find similarities, but the truth was more disturbing. Rourke was different from everyone who came before him. His shows had a wild feel to them, like he was removing shoes instead of attacking the stomach. When directors called cut, the team would sit there in shock, as if they had just seen something they weren't supposed to see. Rourke was the worst-kept secret in the game by the time of Rumble Fish in 1983. Reporters were told by Francis Ford Coppola, "Mickey lives, he doesn't act, and sometimes I'm afraid of that existence." The film's cinematographer then talked about how Rourke seemed to make his black glow in his scenes without having to change the lighting. Dennis Hopper is used to being passionate, but when asked if he shared scenes with Rourke, he just shook his head. That kid isn't acting. That's just him. And may God bless those who try to keep things in order. Rourke should have been sworn in by the Pope of Greenwich Village. Instead, it was the first hole in the exterior. On set, rumors started to spread that Rourke wouldn't leave his tent for hours, that he was rewriting scenes at 3 a.m., and that he disappeared for days and came back with hurt knuckles and no answers. Publicists for the company said it was method acting, but rumors going around the Chateau Marmont said it wasn't. One crew member said, "When he looked at you with those eyes, you knew this wasn't a man playing a role. This man could kill someone, if the situation called for it." The fact that Rourke seemed to be trying to stop his rise only made it more amazing. While other celebrities posed for pictures with the media, Rourke told them to "get the hell out of my face." While his peers went to industry parties, Rourke could be seen at sleazy jazz bars or underground boxing gyms where no one cared about his IMDb page. He worked with Kim Basinger in 912 Weeks. Basinger said that most actors want to be recognized. Mickey acted like fame was something he had to deal with, like he had stepped into a bear trap by chance. The important event happened while Angel Heart was being filmed in 1987. The now famous sex scene with Lisa Bonet was scary because it seemed so real, not because of what it was about. The crew said they didn't turn away because they were being humble, but because it looked like voyeurism. Alan Parker, the director, would later say that he did think about cutting the take. "I really thought Lisa wasn't safe at one point. Mickey might forget where he left off and where the character began, but he wouldn't hurt her." To the MPAA's threat of an X rating, Rourke's answer was wise. "Okay, then maybe people will understand what we're talking about." By the end of the decade, Hollywood's golden kid had turned into a problem. The scripts kept coming in, but Rourke's rejections got more and more rude. He turned down Rain Man because he didn't want to play some. He didn't pay attention to Beverly Hills Cop because it smelled like a paycheck. When his agency told him to think about The Untouchables, Rohr is said to have laughed and said, "You want me to play a cop? Suckered a shotgun, please." The business world tried to describe him as too damaged, too methodical, and too intense. The truth, on the other hand, was more clear and scary. Mickey Rourke was smart enough to see through the whole act. He was honest with Rolling Stone in 1989. "They want you to sell your soul but wrap it up nice so it looks like art." Not at all. The devil tells the truth about himself. That's why I'd rather give him my life. Rohr's hands were often flexing, while they talked, as if he were getting ready for a fight that only he could see coming. The author of the piece says that he made his last movie in 1991 before going missing. Harley-Davidson and the Man in the Marlboro. The title alone should have been enough to scare you off. When executives tried to make the script more commercial, Rohr apparently threw it against a wall and said, "This isn't a movie, it's an ad campaign." Rohr wore motorcycle leathers to the meeting. "It's over for me." When he left, he stopped being involved with Hollywood in any way. For many years after that, people said they saw him walking around New York City at 4 a.m., at a boxing gym in Las Vegas, or in a Miami trash club. But Mickey Rourke, who had made the movie house lively, wasn't there anymore. It wasn't clear why. He left. Nor was it clear what might have been so strong that it would make someone turn down the kind of talent and attention that most people would kill for. Everything would make sense when the answer came. The real story wasn't why Mickey Rourke left. It had to do with where he was walking. It was more profound than anything Hollywood could ever try to show. The holes in the mask. A famous person who didn't like being the center of attention. Through the late 1980s, Mickey Rourke became known for turning movie sets into battles with pure, unwavering defiance instead of fists. Rourke moved as if he knew it was all a lie and wouldn't change how he was acting. Unlike other actors who followed markers and hit their cues, he didn't practice. Directors talked about his process, or lack thereof, in whispers. He did not do what was asked of him. He only did what he thought was right, and he only showed up when he wanted to, if at all. The companies thought this was not professional. It was the only thing that made Rourke feel normal. He turned down jobs that would have made him famous, not because he was proud, but because he didn't want to. When I read those stories, all I saw was work. Actors are not what they want. They want puppets who will cash checks and keep quiet, he told a partner. When directors pushed him, he fought back more strongly. He was turned down by big companies because he wouldn't work with them, not because he failed. The stories piled up like trash. He told a Paramount executive to "go screw yourself" during a pitch meeting. The night he hit a photographer's camera on the hood of a limo while drunk, because the man called him tough. When the director of Johnny Handsome asked for a second take, he was not happy and walked off the set that morning. But there was more to Rohr's anger than that. He said, "I already gave it to you. If you didn't get it, that's your problem." Something that people wanted that Hollywood couldn't give them. Realism. Rohrke began to disappear for weeks at a time, going to places where no one knew who he was instead of going to therapy or getaways. The floors in dive bars, gyms, and back alleys were sticky and smelled like rust and sweat. He hung out with guys who had been through a lot and had scars to show for it. Men who had never heard of 9.5 weeks. They didn't see him as a star. He was just another man looking for something he didn't know about. Then, all of a sudden, he stopped chasing. No one picked up the phone when his agents called. A lot of unread texts piled up. The acting world used to scream that he was the next big thing, but now they were talking about his fall as if it were going to happen. Anyway. Not that Rohrke was hurting himself, though. He was looking for something, but it hurt him. The act of going away. In what place did Mickey Rourke go? When the 1990s came around, Mickey Rourke was gone from the world that used to love him. There was no big news conference, farewell tour, or well-thought-out speech about moving on to other things. The most interesting performer of his time just went. Since Hollywood is always ready to move on, no one paid much attention, but the whispers began in the dark. For 5 years, Roar was a ghost story. There were times when tabloids wrote about sightings. A blurry picture of a big guy in a Miami bar. A story that a man who looked like him was making a scene in a Moscow bar. However, there was nothing, real or concrete. His managers said they couldn't get in touch with him. His friends agreed that they had not seen him in a while. The guy who had been so bright seemed to have gone into the dark on purpose. After that, the story went in a strange direction. The most scary stories were those from people who said they saw him up close. It was Mickey, but not Mickey. Someone in New Orleans said it looked like they took his face and put it back wrong. Roar was fighting with himself. Few people were able to get close to Roar during these lost years. One photographer who surrounded him in a Paris cafe in 1994 said that Roar's eyes sparkled with the same fierceness that had captivated crowds in the past. But his hands were always swollen, his nose was flattened, and he spoke a little mumbled. Reports say that when asked why he had stopped acting, Roar just laughed. "I stayed. I got lost." The Los Angeles business world made up its own story. Roar washed up. It's done. Some more stories to teach us. As always, the truth was more complicated. Few people who still had their phones said they got calls at 3 a.m. from Roar. During the calls, Roar talked rambly about finding something real before cutting off the call. The most important clue came from a source no one expected. A former NYPD officer who increased security at a Brooklyn gym. "Guy came in every night for months," he said. The way he worked the big bag made it seem like he was trying to get something done. He never took off his sunglasses. Then I saw that was Mickey Roar one day. Besides that, he left. People who saw him said he didn't look like himself. By 1997, there were more than whispers. Roar was getting ready to fight for a living. Fighting in the backroom had destroyed Roar's life. The most shocking thing that was found was not what had happened to Mickey Roar, but why he let it happen. In the end, the truth would come out. There was silence for now, and a story about a guy who gave up his bright future for something no one could understand began to spread. Things happened to him that changed his body and his mind. People would find it hard to believe they had ever known Mickey Roar when they saw him again. The shadow came back with a face that no one knew. There was a ghost that came back to life in the 2000s. When an old man walked the red carpet in Sin City in 2005, the entertainment media rushed to see for themselves what they couldn't believe. The man had a face that didn't belong to Mickey Roar, but his name, job, and even voice sounded like Mickey Roar's. The high cheekbones that had been the subject of 1,000 magazine covers for teens were gone. The nose, which used to be perfect, was now a little off-center. His lips, which used to be soft and full, looked strangely tight now. The business world was shocked by both his change and how he looked. When the wrestler got out of jail in 2008, the whispers turned into a roar. Like his character Randy the Ram Robinson, Roar was a broken fighter. The camera stuck on his broken face for a long time, and each scar and missing feature told its own story. But what really shocked people was his speech when he accepted the Golden Globe. Critics said it was his best act to date. Even Hollywood's most cynical stars leaned forward as he stood on stage. His face, which used to be smooth, looked like a map of misery. It wasn't just a revival, it was a resurrection. The next one was Marvel. People barely recognized the man who had been on fire for 9.5 weeks in Iron Man 2 as Whiplash, played by Roar. His face no longer moved with the fluid grace of his youth. Instead, it moved like someone who has learned new ways to express themselves around a broken bone. There was a lot of speculation on online sites. Was it an auto accident? A fight that went badly at the bar? When a doctor in Beverly Hills looked at Roar's face on EN and saw clear signs of several failed plastic surgeries, the claims of cosmetic surgery got very heated. As was often the case with Roar, though, the truth was more complicated than the stories. People who worked with him at the time said disturbing things about him, like how he would automatically cover his face during stunt practice and grimace when touched while getting ready for makeup, as if he had been trained for years to expect blows. He wasn't just different in how he looked. The director of The Wrestler, Darren Aronofsky, said he moved differently, as if he had been changed from the inside out. In an appearance with David Letterman in 2009, that was the most telling moment. The audience in the room was quiet, as the actor fixed the host with a look, as the host slowly brought up Rourke's appearance. Rourke added slowly, "You wake up one day and realize the mirror no longer shows you what's inside. You change it." Less than 30 seconds went by, but the encounter shook the room like a thunderclap. With this sudden second act in Rourke's career, the questions only got worse. Was it just bad plastic surgery? The aftermath of a terrible accident? Or, as the scariest theories said, had the change been intentional? Had he deleted the image of the attractive guy he had always hated? The truth was right there in the open. Rourke would change himself. In the years that followed, people would sometimes give tidbits of explanation, like vague references to boxing, injuries, and casual comments about fixing what the surgeons messed up. But behind those troubled eyes, the whole story stayed hidden under layers of scar tissue and reinvention. Despite everyone's guesses, only one guy knew the truth about what had really happened to Mickey Rourke's face. He was also quiet, but not quite yet. The fight they didn't see coming. The rumors started going around in Miami and Los Angeles's underground fight scenes long before anyone knew about Mickey Rourke's face changes. There are rumors of a famous Hollywood star trading his fame for bloody noses and knuckles by showing up at back-alley gyms. At first, people thought it was just another famous person trying boxing for a role, or following a dream about a midlife crisis. But as the stories went on, they got creepier. Trainers said that one man trained not like a tough guy actor, but like a man who had nothing to lose. His sparring partners said that he took punches without moving, and even enjoyed the pain. "Most guys cover up when they get hit," a cornerman who did not want to be named said. He would smile at this man. This time, he would come back stronger. The meetings were not practice times. It was a fight. It looks like the man really wanted to lose all of them. It was hard to ignore the damage to their bodies. In the late 1990s, Rourke's friends barely knew him, both because of the surgery and the way he acted. Moves that used to be smooth are now stiff and worn out. The sound of his voice had changed from a low growl to a rough one. When asked, his usual answer was, "I took a bad shot." But people who really paid attention saw what was going on. There was no way that an interview could fully catch the story in his face. Scar tissue and reconstructed bone tell a story. When a shaky VHS tape supposedly showing Rourke in an unofficial practice match against a former Golden Gloves winner came out in 2002, the boxing claims gained steam. Even though the video and sound were fuzzy, two things were clear. Rourke was strong enough to take a hit. He came back over and over for more. People who were there thought the fight was more like an exorcist, with the guy punishing himself for wrongdoings that only he knew about. People in Hollywood thought it was just method acting practice for a part that never came together. The guys at these places, on the other hand, knew more. They saw Rourke shaking hands between shots and how he often looked at himself in the mirror in the locker room as if he was trying to figure out who was looking back at him. This wasn't supposed to happen. That was the reason. Penance. Then the other bad guy showed up and no one dared say his name. That person had seen Rourke at his most aggressive and had pushed him past all limits. He was said to have been a winner in the past and had a history of disarming sparring partners because he didn't think amateurs should hold back. One guy knew the truth. He didn't say anything either. The boxing stories died down when Rourke made a comeback in Hollywood in the 2000s. The official story was told about the surgeries, the return, and the jobs. In the seconds before the cameras started rolling, though, Roar's face kept telling the same sad story. After the makeup artists left and the lights went out, the fight was never about Hollywood. Nobody could have stopped what was going on by the time everyone realized what had happened. The man in the mirror was involved. That's it. Joe Rogan tells the truth. The UFC commentator and Hollywood expert finally told the shocking truth about Mickey Rourke on an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. It's bad news for everyone in the entertainment business. Rogan says those around him don't know what happened to Mickey. Because the event was so serious, his voice was rough. This was not a normal star breakdown. This guy had had enough of the fake Hollywood stunts. So he was hurting himself in a planned way. The way Rogan showed Roar's fall shocked me. Mickey was a great character. In movies like Rumble Fish and The Pope of Greenwich Village, you couldn't take your eyes off of him. He was about to become Dyro's successor. Studio officials say Mickey was able to see through Hollywood, including the soul-crushing concessions, shady bosses and fake friendships, and it made him sick. People who worked with Rogan in the fighting business told him the truth was much worse than anyone thought. Roar's fall wasn't caused by pride or bad luck. It was a deliberate act of self-destruction. This guy was training with killers, not boxers played by actors. I'm talking about real-world champions who would stop sparring sessions if they thought you were going to die, Rogan said. The scary story was based around one name. John James Toney was a famous middleweight boxer who was known for beating his opponents in both the ring and underground gym wars. Toney didn't think artists should have special rights. Rogan made it clear. You were treated the same as a ranked competitor if you stepped in with him. Through the rough, heartless practices, Toney hit Roar in the face like a heavy bag, breaking skin and cartilage. Mickey kept coming back while shaking his head as if he were trying to make a point, Rogan replied. The most disturbing discovery? Roar wanted to be punished. Rogan explained that he would show up with scripts in his bag and tell the trainers, "Let's work." While Hollywood waited for its lost son to return, Roar was in a sweatbox gym, letting Toney change the shape of his face punch after punch. Later, the procedures were frantic attempts to fix the damage done by the boxing world. That's why his face never looked the same afterward, Rogan said. You can't fix something that's been broken. Rogan saw Roar's obsession with boxing as the ultimate act of resistance against Hollywood's impersonation. Mickey was the most real person in the room. While everyone else was after fame, he was after something real, even if it meant losing his job, his looks, his mind, and unfortunately, his sanity. Rogan came to the conclusion that the tragedy wasn't that he changed his face, but that he thought he had to. As the podcast ended, Rogan left listeners with one unsettling thought. Mickey Rourke didn't lose himself in boxing. He went there to find out who he was. When did he come back? Mickey Rourke wasn't himself. The truth was out. The mirror was broken, and only Mickey Rourke could understand the reflection that stared back at him. A face scarred by fists instead of time. A face that told the truth. The story of a man who chose death over illusion and got exactly what he asked for. If Mickey Rourke came back as a wrestler in Iron Man 2, it should have been a success. Instead, it was more like seeing a ghost haunt his legacy. The man wasn't there, but the roles weren't the ones we remembered. In the theaters, people shook their heads at his new look and whispered as if they had seen something inappropriate. His once smooth performances now had a grim resolve, as if acting had become a fight instead of a trade. It's still not clear if Roar's suicide was a brave or insane act. He was so lost that he could only express himself through pain or by rejecting Hollywood's lies. We all know that Mickey Rourke reached his goal, but it left scars on him and on us that will never fully heal. What do you think? Was Mickey Rourke's change an act of rebellion or self-destruction? Was it brave or tragic? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.